Welcome to the Talent Culture Podcast. Learn how the most innovative companies implement culture and make it part of their strategy. On the Talent Culture Podcast, we're interviewing business professionals on how they prioritize onboarding and culture, bringing our own expertise and experience from working with dozens of companies on exactly this. The Talent Culture Podcast is an actionable strategy guide that can either help you implement these strategies in your company or learn how you get buy-in from executives. Your host is Søren Bolvig, CEO at Empact. Enjoy.
A topic that has a lot of my focus is collaboration. We all know that collaborating more and more is good both for the company and for me as a personal individual, both as an employee and maybe also on the personal level. So why is it so difficult? We know that from a logical point of view, strong collaboration drives innovation. We don't get stuck in our problem solving. It's easier for us to solve the problems. It's easier for us to come up with new ideas when we collaborate. We know that the learning when we collaborate increases, our ability to learn increases. Actually, studies shows that you can increase your learning ability up to 20-25% by collaborating more. So again, there it is from a evidence point of view and from a theoretical point of view, from a logical point of view, collaboration increases ability to learn. And then there is productivity. Actually, a study from Stanford showed that the more you collaborate or the more efficient you collaborate, your productivity goes up to 50%. So you become 50% more effective. Efficiency increases when you collaborate. Not only that, it motivates you more. You get more engaged. So all in all, collaboration means good for you, the company, in most aspects. I think one of the key issues for lack of collaboration is that, at least on a cross-departmental view, is that you have to make sure that you thrive towards the same goal. If you both on a department level or individuals know you go for the same goal, it's much easier to have the dialogue on, for example, creating new ideas or solving problems or whatever it may be, because you're driving toward the same goal. And there, the confidence and the trust in each other is much bigger, because the issue of trust is one of the things that actually prevent us from collaborating. Why should I collaborate with you? What do I gain from it? And if we see that we are thriving towards the same goal, it's much, much easier. So it actually is a management task that needs to be solved to make sure that everybody understands where we're going. And the next thing is, of course, do we understand the things? Do we understand that we are going the same direction? The next thing is of course, how easy is it to communicate? Do we have the tools that makes it easy for us to communicate? It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to stay in the same room, but if we are not in the same room, we have the tool to communicate in a much more efficient way. Yeah, well, I think one of the difficulties is, of course, if you're a deskless worker and you're not sitting together with a group physically, is of course how do you create that environment? How do you stimulate collaboration? And I think it's much about the tools. Of course, you need to have access to tools where it's easy for you to communicate. For example, I'm out now servicing this machine, and there's this problem. Can I easily access Henriette or Klaus for them to help me with solving the problem? And that should be easy. You should have at least a toolbox, a digital toolbox, where this form of communication is easy. And that's where it becomes easy to do. But if you have to call them, it may be easy, but then if you just call them and ask for a problem, then it gets not locked anywhere, and then you have the same problem next time, maybe when it's not Klaus and it's Henrik standing there. So you need to have this toolbox where it's easy to share the knowledge, where it's easy to communicate with each other. Yeah, and then another part of it is of course the whole learning aspect, the ability to actually share your knowledge or your learning with others, and that also needs to be supported digitally. Of course, one thing is, telling your coworker, this is how we solve the problem now, this is how we can do. But another thing is, if you're a deskless again, if you're working out in the field, you need to be able to, I'm an expert in this area, perhaps then I can share my knowledge to other people that need to solve the same problem. Or I encounter this problem, I solve it this way, record it, share it, or whatever it is on a digital platform, so the next one can access it and solve the problem much faster. There was a study made just after COVID that had to focus on did the separation actually mean anything for our collaboration? Yes, it did. If you didn't have the tool to communicate, it did. And actually some of the workers broke protocol and met up, and they're not allowed to meet, they meet anyway in order to make collaboration work faster or more efficient and trying to solve the problems much faster. And I think it's about having this virtual room or physical room that stimulates collaboration. And that means that it's easy for us to communicate, it's easy for us to write down ideas, it's easy for us to bounce up ideas on each other, and that's the scenario we want to create. Not only make sure that we have the same understanding, we are going in the same direction, and we are able to create a physical or digital room where we can collaborate, it's also to contradict the myth or the false truth that actually collaboration means less productive. And I think that's something that I don't know where it's coming from, but it's like, if I want something gets done, I do it myself, and it's much faster than collaborating. But even I think this is something that's deep inherent in us, and may be called a false truth, because it is not true. It may you start out fast, but you don't come to the end result faster. I think it's important that we invest in relations, we invest in our colleagues in order to increase the collaboration, and then hence would lead to more productivity and ideas and so on. And it has been shown from several studies. For example, I remember one of the biggest studies made of a competition. You have a 24-hour competition on solving a problem. And actually, the group that won were the one that spent, I think it was 80% of the time on planning and the rest of executing. So it's like we should consider this planning phase as, the investment of other people trying to come on the same level of communication in order to collaborate more efficiently. And then we will execute much faster and actually gain bigger results together. And I think there is a saying from the savannah, from Africa somewhere, it said, if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, go together. I think it's about, from a starting point of view, of course you need to invest in a relationship with the co-workers in order to increase the collaboration. But in the long run, I think you can just as easily work fast together than going alone. From all point of view, collaboration will strengthen the company's ability to execute and your own ability to execute, both on a professional and on a personal level. I think you can, as a manager, be eager to create results, and then you, of course, from a logical point of view, you try to create focus areas. You try to say this department is responsible for this area, this department is responsible for this area, in order to drive efficiency, in order to drive focus, in order to drive results. And I think it's typical, at least from a manager point, my point of view, is like then you sometimes tend to forget the collaboration aspect. You try to, and then you actually forces the organization to reinvent the wheel sometimes. And you don't even have to be that big. We're not that big at all, but I've seen it happen. So, again, try to take one step back and then not try to fall into the trap that everybody else is falling into, like you also falling into, it's from a logical point of view, how do you create synergies again? How do you make people, or at least not make them, but create the surrounding that stimulates collaboration? And that's your job as a manager. Because if you look at it, again, take one step back and you see, and all the arguments point towards that it will create a better work environment. It motivates people. It creates more efficiency. It creates more innovation. So, and I think that's one of the key responsibilities you have as a manager, in try to stimulate that collaboration, because you know it will create results on all parameters almost. But sometimes you are so eager on creating the short-term result, you force the organization into those silos, and you may create results, but in the long term, you lose. So that's what you need to avoid. So that I think it needs to be top of every management, because it is the key to actually getting somewhere.
This was the Talent Culture Podcast. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next episode.